Hello and welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Podcast, where we discuss everything Victoria real estate. I'm Adrian McLaren, and I'm joined by
Jocelyn Chef
and
Vincent Barr.
and
David Steinberg.
And where are you from, David?
I'm Olympic Mortgage.
yes, and us three. We're from the CNS team at Remax Camosun, and we're real estate agents in Greater Victoria. Guys, how's everyone doing?
so good.
So good. That
Very
sounded
good.
forced, Jocelyn. That sounded forced.
I don't know. It's Thursday.
It's
For the people
Thursday.
listening, we've got large coffees sitting in front of all of
Yeah.
us,
Thank you,
and
David.
we need the caffeine.
I'm the
Yeah.
snacks provider for everybody here.
Yeah.
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 Thank goodness for sugary snacks.
What did everyone get up to this week?
I had a music class with my little baby. We
Is she a prodigy?
Yeah.
she's one of those kids that will just run around and get in everyone's face, and everyone else is just like quietly, hanging out with their parents, and she's just like up, just
You
in
got
everyone's
yourself
grill,
a little extrovert.
just
Yeah.
nonstop. I don't know where she gets it from, but it's just like slow down, kid.
Two introverts, one extrovert. Although I wouldn't call Brianna an introvert.
I don't know. But yeah, it's a lot. If you have a young kid at home and you're like, oh, should I sign up for this dumb looking tambourine class? Yes, you should. It's a lot of fun.
Oh man, that's funny. Jocelyn, what about you?
I went to a concert at the Royal this weekend.
I don't know if I've ever been to a concert there.
I hadn't up to this point. The only thing I'd ever seen there was musical theater and the ballet. So this was kind of like a new experience for me. I was expecting it to be, it was a, I guess, band called Moon Tricks, which
Right.
if you are under 35, you might know of. I hadn't heard of them before.
I haven't heard of Moon Tricks. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
Sounds like a niche crowd.
it was a little niche, but you know what? I went in expecting like folk music and was going to get like a peppermint tea and hunker down. And it ended up being like a DJ dance party, which was,
Okay.
yeah, like we were in the front row. So it was kind of up to us. Like we had to stand up or not stand up because we were kind of setting the vibe.
Right.
And so, yeah, we all stood up like those jerks.
But it was assigned
It's
seating?
assigned
Yeah.
seating. And
But
it's a
everyone was
Royal.
up.
Everybody was up
That's
and
good.
Wow.
dancing. I danced for like
That's-
2 hours.
Wow, you're sore?
Sounds exhausting.
Honestly, it was. I went home right after. So everybody else went to the Irish Times, and I was like,
Nice.
I'm going to bed. So yeah, but it was fun. I would recommend him.
Okay.
Yeah, good
awesome.
times.
David, what about you?
Yeah. I started wearing ties this week.
Yeah.
We
see
noticed.
that. Yeah.
Well, I always
Looking
used
good.
to wear ties. Like when I used to work at the bank, we were forced to wear, a suit and tie or whatever. And since I became self-employed, I just got kind of lazy with it, I guess, and
Yeah,
just
that's
wearing,
fair.
whatever it is. And now I feel like I'm just wearing ties again, because I've got that old, the old saying, dress for success.
Yeah,
And you just never know who's going to stop in the office
it's true.
that, you want to impress people by wearing the tie.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
10% more credible because
There
of
we
that
go.
tie.
I'm
Yeah.
actually a little jealous of like just the tie. It's such an
Yeah,
easy
you know
way
what?
to dress things up.
It is, exactly. And it's good to play with when I'm like thinking or bored.
Yeah, you're on the
you
phone.
grab
You're
it,
like, instead of
like-
twirling your hair, you're twirling your
Yeah.
your
Nice.
tie.
Oh, to be a man.
What about you, Adrian? Anything fun this week for you?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a fun project I'm working on is I'm trying to start the Victoria Pharmacists Association, and basically,
I said fun.
yeah.
VPA.
This is my version of fun. I don't know.
Okay, all
Getting
right.
people together, maybe planning some social events. But yeah, other cause that's my background. People don't know is in my past life I was a pharmacist, and basically like dentistry, optometry, med, like all these other kind of professions, they have these social committees and they'll get together once a month or every 2 months and have events or learning credits. And pharmacists, like maybe there's just too many of us, maybe because we're just so separated. I don't know what it is, but we don't really have anything like that in Victoria. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start it. So
Nice.
had coffee with the person who organizes all the events for the optometry events this morning, and that went super well. And I got some ideas of how to suck money out of other associations or drug reps or whoever.
Big Pharma.
Yeah,
Big Pharma, to kind of sponsor some events and stuff. So now I just need to find a bunch of pharmacists.
So if you're a pharmacist and you're listening to this show,
Yeah,
reach
message
out
me.
to Adrian.
Yeah. We're gonna start to do some social events, make it educational but fun. Yeah, that's my goal. Yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Big week.
Nice.
Yeah. So should we get into the nitty gritty?
Let's
Yes.
get
Sure.
gritty.
Real estate.
So summary of the podcast today. Not so much maybe of a mortgage update, but maybe just an economic update. And that's going to be kind of led by David. It's going to be including, obviously, tariffs and probably some Trump talk. Of course. First time home buyer incentive overview. I'm going to be leading that.
Mhm.
And the reason we're talking about that is actually I had a listener DM me on Instagram and they were
Mm.
like, hey, if you take requests, can you talk about first time home buyer like programs and just kind of go over them? And so I'm just like saying that as if anyone else has, a topic they would like us to talk about on the podcast, message me on Instagram or text us, phone us, whatever, and
Mhm.
we'll make a note of it. And when we can, we will. And then we're going to do, Jocelyn's going to be doing a Vic West neighborhood
Mhm.
highlight.
It feels wrong, but I'm doing it.
And
Because you don't
then-
like the neighborhood?
No, just because I haven't lived there. And Vince
Gotcha.
has, so.
Oh, well, Vince will be able to add some
yeah,
insights then.
Vince can add some insights.
And,
We'll get there.
And then
Yeah.
we're going to do a market update, of course, and that's going to be led by Vince. So should we get into it? Pull up those
Let's do it.
those papers.
There we go.
What's
Mhm.
going
Yeah.
on?
Well,
Tell us.
we've got mayhem in the markets right now.
Yeah.
And it's mainly being caused by so much uncertainty with regards to how much everything is going to cost.
Yeah.
Which is obviously it's a very legitimate concern that everybody has. Well, what's going to happen? Specifically related to real estate is that I'm seeing this every day. The papers talking about, specifically right on the front page, the stock markets are crashing. Yesterday, actually, stock markets were back up when Trump announced his pause
Mhm.
on the tariffs, at least for another 90 days now. Before it was a 30-day pause, and now it's
Yep.
a 90-day
Mhm.
pause. And you see the markets just bouncing around like crazy.
Yeah, so I actually have a tidbit here. So yesterday, when that news was announced, I was talking to Vince about this. The S&P 500 surged 9.5%
Mhm.
in one day off that news, and it was the index's third best day since World War II.
Crazy.
Man.
Wow.
So
And
it's
then-
like, and 9.5% would be a good year for the
Oh.
S&P 500 in one day. And then what happened today, David?
today I
We're
I
back
haven't
down.
even seen. I
We
haven't
are back
even.
down.
Yeah.
We're back down.
Well,
yeah,
but I think it's like a down another 5.
Yeah,
So
it's like
you're
4
right.
and a-
Like I feel like yesterday people got that news and they're like,
Mhm.
buy. Like, tariffs are pushed out. Everything's going to be
Mhm.
fine. And then today they're like, oh, wait, well, tariffs are coming still. And actually there is a
Maybe.
bunch of import. Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe.
Yeah, who
and,
knows?
and there is still import. I think they're taxing imports at like mid-20s%.
Well, and the auto industry is still being hit pretty hard.
And so then I think there was like a kind of like more of an analysis that happened today where they were like,
Mhm.
you know what, less emotional and
Right.
more analysis, and so dip back down another 5. But
Yeah.
you're right, it's
I
bouncing.
mean, the problem with this is that much of this is run on emotions,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? So the market sentiment, the economists have no reason why things happen
Yeah.
because it's just people's emotions that are determining this stuff.
Mhm.
Like, look at GameStop.
Then why do we listen to economists? They have.
Well, right,
You
exactly.
should be
I mean,
listening to
like,
psychologists.
this is something that I regularly write about because it's just like, first of all, you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt, but second of all, it's just like what you're investing in, the stock market. I mean, everybody's investing in it in a way, in one way or the other, and it's just so volatile,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? And then I bring it back to I've been a mortgage broker for however long I've been a broker for, since 2009. It's just like these kinds of crazy swings do not happen with real estate.
Mhm.
It
And
just doesn't happen.
I was just thinking about something internally. Do you think that those swings don't happen because of an inability to buy and sell on a whim? Like,
Oh,
with-
yeah,
with the
lack
stock-
of
definitely.
flexibility.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
lack of flexibility. Like people are
Yeah, you
locked
can't
in.
make a same day decision that you're gonna dump
Yeah,
your house
you're like,
and buy
"Ooh."
another one.
Yeah,
I mean, some
exactly.
people do, but yeah, there's
But-
more involved.
But would we see that same swing? If-
Probably.
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I
is-
don't.
it's
I
an
don't know because I
It's an
think
impossible question to
Mhm.
answer, but
I think that values are also determined by how much people are willing to pay to be in those places. So
Yes.
obviously, rents aren't just going to all of a sudden drop
Mhm.
by 50%. So it's not just the value of the property, the value of the property. Excuse me. Sorry, the value of the property is determined by its cash flows.
Mhm.
So in this kind of situation, I've never seen real estate. I kind of chuckle a little bit when I see every day markets in turmoil, and I'm just like, this doesn't happen with real estate in
No.
Victoria.
It's also a basic necessity. I
Right.
mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a roof over your head. So
Right.
it's not quite the same as stocks where it's like you don't necessarily need to have investments.
Right.
But
yeah. I am chatting with people in other provinces. Like I have a new client from Windsor,
Mhm.
Ontario, who's moving here, and she asked me, well, what's going on in the market in Victoria? And I explained to her that, like, you know, while I'm guessing Windsor's probably gotten hit pretty hard because a lot of people who live in Windsor live or no, work in the States. They travel over to Detroit or whatever for work. And the auto industry is highly tied to Windsor and that part of Canada. And so they've probably had, you know, more of a dramatic effect happen to probably their housing prices.
Well, people are losing their jobs as well, which we're not seeing so much here with our industry.
And so I was explaining to her, I was like, you know, actually, like, probably in single family, we're up.
We are.
Yeah.
We're up like a couple percentage over the last year or two. And that shocked her because someone who lives out east and they're getting hit hard by all these tariff news and all this economic change. And we're in Victoria just...
We've been insulated. We've been insulated for much of the damage that could be done.
Well, and we regularly have conversations with people who compare, you know, the Victoria market to the Ontario market and what's happening with
and it's totally different.
And it's so different. So it does take a little bit of time for people to see that because they like to have that kind of tangible evidence that the market is not actually tanking. But once that happens, usually that confidence in this specific market comes back when you see how much better it fares compared to other markets. So
how it all kind of relate. I'll finish up with my mortgage update, and basically how it's all relating to how mortgages are working these days is that underwriting has generally gotten a lot more strict at the banks now. So there's not necessarily any policy that's being changed that's making it harder for people to get loans. The banks are just pulling back on a lot of approvals that they may have done previously.
So this is something that's interesting to me, David. So when I think of approvals with mortgage, I think 39% loan to value, or, you know,
debt servicing.
And if you hit that number and you have a job, and I'm like, you're going to get a mortgage. But in these scenarios where you're saying that some people they're pulling back, now what does that mean? Like, is it someone who maybe has a riskier job and or like what? Wait, give me a scenario where
both kinds of scenarios actually.
Yeah.
So most of my clients, actually, all of my clients almost are at that 50% debt servicing ratio point.
Okay.
So really the banks on uninsured business can only go up to 44% and on insured business up to 39%. But our banks are still going up to 50% debt servicing ratio, which is above the guideline. And before, where I felt like I'd be able to get an approval with a 50% debt servicing ratio, now we're just finding that they might not, or they might.
And how are they allowed to do that? Because I thought the 44% was a set thing from the government.
I think that's if you're B20. If you're not,
if it's so, yeah, exactly as Vince said. There's two baskets that banks are drawing on for their money.
Yep.
One basket is the B20 compliant money, and then the other basket is non-compliant money. So the non-compliant money is where the banks can generally.
That sounds so sinister. Non-compliant.
Yeah.
It's just.
It makes me think of just like this basket of scary money.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that basket is quite a bit smaller.
It's much smaller.
Yeah. So so they're just becoming pickier and choosier with that basket.
They're becoming pickier and choosier with that basket. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Credit unions are a great example because we've had a couple of interviews with credit unions that they'll say, hey, we don't have to follow the B20 guidelines. We have access to different piles of capital, but they're a lot smaller.
Yeah.
We haven't, as a mortgage broker, I haven't had as much luck with a non-compliant stuff with credit unions, maybe because credit unions, perhaps they only withhold that portfolio to people that walk into their branches.
Got it.
I don't know.
They don't like working with brokers. Maybe.
You're
a nice guy. You're a nice guy, David.
I know I'm a nice guy. I'm trying. No, we still work with credit unions, but for generally non-compliant stuff, I'm not gonna go to the credit unions with it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Another just fun headline. Speaking of credit unions, did you guys hear about the Coast? It's the huge merger going on between 3 different credit unions in BC. It's going to be the largest credit union in Canada, I think.
No, tell me.
I mean, David probably knows more about it than I do, but that's the headline. They're merging.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe I've been under a rock.
Okay, yeah.
For these last couple weeks, but I did see something about this. I think Island Savings is involved here, or Envision Credit Union.
Yeah, that was there are several mergers. There's always mergers with credit unions.
Always.
We're just like, let's Google it. But we should blog about this. I think it will change because as you grow, like as these credit unions merge into larger and larger entities, then they have to start following these B20 guidelines. So
So in this case, sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off, it's Prospera Credit Union, Coast Capital, and Sunshine Coast.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
wow.
And my
So
guess
two of those
would
are provincial and one is federal, apparently.
Coast
Coast-
Capital,
They're federal.
I
now,
believe,
right?
and Prospera are both federally they go under the federal regulation rules, and
Mhm.
I believe Sunshine Coast would probably be the provincial one in there.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are the three. And the more the biggest merger that happened in our world just recently really was RBC swallowing up HSBC.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
was huge. Yeah.
Interesting.
I just think of like a big fish eating a smaller fish.
Yeah, it's just a huge shark,
Yeah,
a shark
a
eating a
shark.
smaller fish,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, and
yeah.
HSBC for years they had kind of been moving out of the Canadian market. Like
Mhm.
I remember there was a story a couple of years ago where these small business owners they received a letter and HSBC's like, "Hey, you've been banking with us for a while now.
And now you're not.
Well, you're not. Like we're just closing your account." And these guys are like, "What? That doesn't happen." But yeah, HSBC, I guess, they decided that Canada wasn't the right market for them.
Oh.
And then one thing about that, and I remember this being like a scary thought, is like when someone gets bought out and they take on all the mortgages that were at that credit union,
Mhm.
for example. I've heard of horror stories where the credit union can just be like, "Sorry, we're actually calling your mortgage due."
Ooh, scary.
Ooh.
Can that happen in Canada? I don't know if that.
I can't remember when it was.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it was a long time ago. Someone had talked about this as a scenario where somebody got bought out, like a
Okay.
credit union or something like that,
Mhm.
and then for whatever reason, or maybe they
They can-
fizzled.
They can call the loan at maturity.
Not
But
before.
not before. No, I mean, if one bank buys the other, they have to abide by the terms of the debt that the client agreed upon.
Right.
So if the client is still making their payments, and if the client isn't in default with regards to being in, renting out the property when they said that the property was a primary residence, for example, then there'd be no way that a bank would be able to call that loan.
Right.
So we hear lots of kind of horror stories, but we have to sort of wade through the ones that are a story or something that's just made up.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as the client is agreeing or is still paying the mortgage, there wouldn't be no reason that that debt would be called. It could be at maturity though.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry for spreading fake
That
news.
calms me down.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. Let's
I'm
not add to
less
the
stressed.
fear.
Clickbait.
Yeah.
Clickbait.
That's right.
We have enough fear right now.
yeah. Let's move on over to the first-time homebuyer programs, and I'd love your guys' input as I go through
Mhm.
on your thoughts on each program and its effectiveness and what
What's
it offers,
good.
what's good. Maybe rate it out of 10. I don't know.
Ooh.
So yeah, if you are a first-time homebuyer in BC, there are a handful of powerful tools to kind of help you get through the market. Whether it's tax savings, down payment help, avoiding property transfer tax, and when I look at all these, I kind of rank them in an order of priority, and then obviously if you can stack these, you can get even more benefit.
And if you are a first-time homebuyer, talk to your mortgage broker and get advice on which ones go
talk
for
to
you.
Dave, call Dave.
Just call me.
David.
Just call me. That's
Yeah.
fine. Just call me. I'll be
Yeah.
able to sort it out.
Yeah,
And they'll help you.
Thank you.
Or your realtor.
So the first one we're going to talk about is the first home savings account, the FHSA. So this one's new.
Mhm.
When did it start? Like I want to say 6 months.
I think it
ago,
was a
maybe?
year ago.
No, it's
been
At
longer
least
than
a year
that,
ago,
yeah.
I feel like.
Time flies.
Yeah.
And basically you can contribute up to $8,000 a year, up to $40,000 lifetime limit. It is a tax deductible contribution, so it works the same as our RSPs, which is amazing because unlike RSP program, you do not have to pay this back,
Mhm.
which is one of the main problems I had with the RSP program. Not that saving money is bad, but
Yeah, but you have to pay it back.
and then there is tax-free withdrawal, same as TFSA, so it's super powerful. And the unused funds, so if you end up not using all of your $40,000 that you put in there or however much you saved towards your down payment or whatever else during your purchase, you can actually roll that into an RSP. So they've kind of solved all those problems. And so I would probably say, and you guys can, out of all of the programs for savings at least, the FHSA is my favorite.
Yeah, it is the best, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you could roll it into your RSP. That's so it's like an extra RSP cushion. Like you can have this extra room.
Yeah.
Whether or not you use it all for your down payment.
That's the thing. I think it's like
That's so great.
you get the tax savings like an RSP, you get the benefits of a TFSA. Like it's like the most powerful.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, none of us get to
It's
ever
like
use it.
they had a baby.
Yeah, they had a baby.
They
That's
had a
right.
powerful baby.
Yes, exactly. So
They got too many complaints about
yeah,
the other program.
that is my number one program, and it is relatively new. So if you are just kind of starting to think about getting into the market, take advantage. Put in that, if you can, $8,000 a year into that program. You won't regret it. The next one I really like is the Home Buyers Plan. This is the RSP withdrawal. I use this one myself because I didn't have access to the FHSA. So this one, you're basically putting money into your RSP like anyone would, and you can withdraw up to $60,000, $120,000 for a couple, and use that towards your home purchase. The one, I guess, complaint that most people had with this one is you must repay whatever money you take out has to be put back into your RSP, and you don't get the tax benefit the second time, but it has to be put back in there over the next 15 years.
Which seems like a long time, but it's not really.
Yeah. Hang on. So you have to do that with after-tax money?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
1 out of 10.
What they would do is that if you don't put the money back in, they'll just increase your income by that amount for that year. So if you took $30,000 over 15 years, if you don't put the money back in, they'll just add $2,000 to your income for that year.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
like that.
Boo.
I mean, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But I would
That's
say,
the bar, Adrian. That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah, but I would say max out that first home savings account,
Mhm.
and if you've completely maxed that 40K out, then you can start looking at the taking the
RSPs.
money out of the RSP if you need it.
Mhm.
And it's like and it makes sense, right? Like, what down payment is $40,000? I mean, I guess there are some properties you can buy with a $40,000 down payment, but if you do need more and you have money sitting in your RSP and you don't have any money in your bank account, that might be the only
Oh, yeah.
option for people, right? So it does allow you to take money out of the RSP without getting dinged.
Mhm.
So I do see it as a useful tool, and most people, I guess, do contribute to the RSP. I hope.
Yeah.
I don't, but that's another
Yeah,
conversation.
But yeah, so that's program number 2. There is one program that I'm not going to touch on today, and I would say if you are interested in it, you can call us or text us or email us, and we can kind of go into it a bit more. But I'm not going to be talking too much about the down payment help.
Oh, yeah. That's
Mhm.
negative 10 out of 10.
Yeah, negative
Yeah,
10.
and the
Yeah.
reason I didn't add it is because I haven't heard of anyone ever using it, unless it's part of a pre-build situation,
Like AHOP mortgages.
like an
Yeah.
AHOP mortgage.
Don't get me started on this.
And don't get me wrong, I would say I actually do like the AHOP program for a first-time home buyer if saving for that down payment is an impossible task.
And if they're going to live in the home.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I would just say there are risks associated with that. So if you are thinking about getting into a pre-build situation where, the government is matching a 10% down payment with your 10%, there are a lot of rules that come along with it.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure you're educated, you're aware.
It really ties your hands if you need
It
to sell your
does.
property.
It ties your hands, and then also it's very inflexible.
Mhm.
So and that's the problem with pre-builds is maybe they're not ready for 2 or 3 years, and guess what?
Mhm.
Your life might look completely different.
Yes.
So if you are seeing one of those programs, but there actually is a program straight through the government that you can apply for, and the limit I think is like $500,000 purchase price.
Mhm.
So that's also why I'm not including it. There's very few
Gotcha,
properties
yeah.
in Victoria, but there are some. And if you wanted to apply for that program, we could talk about it. But I'm not touching on it today because I'm not seeing it as very useful. So that's ranked number 3 so far.
Yep.
Number 4, this one's probably going to be the largest I talk about, but this is the property transfer tax exemption for first-time home buyers.
Mhm.
And this is awesome. I really like that they do this. It's big savings on your closing costs, which is where most people are going to really struggle, right?
Mhm.
You've already saved up your $80,000 for down payment. Do you really have enough cash for a $10,000 property transfer tax bill closing as well? Like you fought to get there, and now you have another bill on top of that. So for first-time home buyers, there are some rules associated with this. You must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. You have to either lived in BC for at least a year before the date you register the property, or filed at least 2 income tax returns in BC. So they want you to be a BC resident. You have never owned or registered interest in a property that was your principal residence anywhere in the world at any time.
Ever?
I've heard a rumor that like at a certain amount of time this expires.
The federal,
Ever?
federally, you are eligible for first time home buyer if you haven't bought in 5 years, 3 years.
I thought it was 5 years.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Yeah,
Because like I bought a timeshare once. So does that throw you
No,
out of there?
That's not your principal
it
residence.
has to be principal.
No, okay.
residence, Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was 4 years, but to use the RSP withdrawal program. I think that this for the
Yeah.
BC first time homebuyers program,
Property
I think
transfer
it
tax?
really is
Ever,
as long as
ever.
you've
Anytime.
never owned a
Yeah.
property.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exemption.
Now-
That's it. It's
Yeah.
like you can't have owned property.
Yeah.
That-
So go ahead, David.
That being said, I mean, if you owned a property in the States, it's like, I don't know.
How they
Let's
gonna
move
know?
on. Yeah, well,
David was about to be like fraud.
No.
And then he was like, wait a minute.
wait a minute.
This show is for entertainment purposes
Yeah.
only.
For
Yeah.
entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and then there are requirements on the actual property as well. So it must be used as your principal residence for at least 1 year, similar to the programs we talked with AHOP. There's it must have a fair market value of less than 835,000, and that was recently increased
Mhm.
in the last year or two from 500,000.
Yeah.
You get a partial exemption up to 860, but once you hit 860, it's zero. So
Mhm.
basically, you want to stay below the 835 to take full advantage. It must be less than 1.24 acres, so no farms.
I don't know why that is.
I don't know. I think they view a 1.24 acre property as a luxury, maybe.
I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can't buy land.
Banks generally also don't like farming. Like it has to.
Yeah.
No, they
Agriculture.
won't do farming under a regular residential program.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Nobody likes farms.
And it must contain only residential improvements. So the potential savings here is if all those requirements that we just talked about are met, you can save only. This is a misconception because the first time homebuyer program got increased to 835, and that doesn't mean you're going to save the full property transfer tax on that full 835.
Right.
You only get the first 500,000.
500
Mhm.
exempt.
And so basically your potential savings are $8,000.
Mhm.
You still have to pay on the remainder up to 835. So I have a couple examples here. So say you buy a $500,000 condo in Victoria, that's resale. You're not going to pay any property transfer tax if, the long list of requirements have been met. But if you buy 835, for example, you only have to pay the property transfer tax on the 335. The remainder past 500. And so that would equal $4,700, which I mean, you're still saving that 8,000. Pretty awesome.
Mhm.
Now, this is where it's surprising. As soon as you go to $861,000, your property transfer tax bumps up to $15,220. Yeah. So, and that's something that you have to pay at closing. You can't roll that into the mortgage.
No.
Mm.
No. So, and basically, like, I want to chat about the idea of the first time home buyer. I really like this program. I think it gets people in homes. Like, they get that cost saving. It's a really nice benefit. Where would you guys rank it so far on the list?
Just because it's so easy,
Yeah.
I would put that as number one.
I would agree.
Or
Yeah,
a
yeah.
9
Yeah.
out of 10.
Yeah. Regardless if you remember to fill up your FNHA or maybe you miss a couple deadlines per year,
Mhm.
no matter what, you're going to get this.
Yes.
So that's why I like it as well.
Most used.
Yeah, most
Mhm.
used for sure. But in the end, I would say, that 835 cap, in the end, I still think you should buy the property of what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you plan on buying something less than 835 anyway for your first property, and that was your requirement on your mortgage, what you got approved for, then this is awesome. This is great. But if you have the means, the income, and you have some savings, and you're wanting to purchase a single family dwelling or a house in Victoria, for example, where the average price is in the 1.23s, and you're like, oh, but I'm not going to get my first time home buyer. Now, I'm going to give like an example. Losing out on your first time home buyer incentive is not that big of a deal, in my opinion, in the long run. Say if you were to purchase like a townhome or a condo to take advantage of that first time home buyer program with the plan to like sell in 1 to 3 years and move into a house. And you're like, I'm doing this because I want to get that benefit. There's a good chance that the costs associated with selling, moving are higher than $8,000.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
yeah.
So I would say if you have the means and your long-term outlook is I want to be in a house and I want to spend more than $835, don't think like, oh man, I screwed myself because I'm not. You're in the long run. If you plan, like I would say, buy whatever property you plan to live in the
Mhm.
long term.
Mhm.
And if that means it's a townhouse, it's under 835, great. Or it's a condo under 835, amazing. But if you're like, I want to be in a house in the next 3 years and I have the means, but I'm only purchasing this condo as a
Because it's
Yeah.
because I'm getting
just
this
to take advantage
yeah,
of this.
yeah,
Yeah.
Then I think that's the wrong thinking. I
Yeah.
think even when I purchased my first house, I didn't get my property transfer tax exemption. Womp womp. But that's okay.
But you got a
because
house.
I got a
Yeah.
house.
And you
Mhm.
probably made money on it.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep that for a long period of time. So,
Mhm. I would say look in 5-year cycles.
Yeah.
Like, do you see yourself here for 5 years?
yeah, that's a
And if you
perfect
don't,
example.
you are probably going
Mhm.
to lose money.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Yeah.
Yeah, depends on- I mean,
really
obviously
depends on the
depends,
market. There's
but-
so many other
Mhm.
factors, but Jocelyn, it makes great sense if you
Mhm.
market aside. If you just look at the cost savings of that
Mhm.
$8,000 versus the cost of selling and moving, it's higher.
Mhm.
So yeah. Next up, we have the newly built home exemption, and
Ooh.
This isn't new though. This is
is
just one
not
of the
new.
programs.
This is not
Mhm.
new. Property transfer tax exemption on new homes. So very
That's for everyone though.
Yeah.
That's
everybody.
That's
Yeah.
not for
This
first time
is-
buyers.
This
There
is, and this
is
is
no
the
property
amazing
transfer
part is
tax.
that, you know, they
Mhm.
want to incentivize new buildings, and they want to make it so people are buying them, and we're promoting building in BC. And so very similar to the first time home buyer property transfer tax exemption, they have it staggered. So you get a full exemption on property transfer tax on the first or if your property is less than 1.1 million. And that was also increased in the last year or two. And you get a partial exemption up to 1.15. But like I said, as soon as you hit 1.15, it's pretty much zero. You get no exemption, like I said, above 1.15. And then a bunch of those rules that I said earlier also apply. You know, Canadian citizen, it must be your principal residence for 1 year. A bunch of rules like that. And I like this one. And do you guys where'd you guys rank this one on the scale?
I mean, the fact that there's still GST on it.
Yeah.
Like,
It
I'm
kinda
like, eh.
The costs kind of negate each other because, yeah,
Yeah.
you don't get...
GST is actually higher.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I don't know. If you like new homes, buy them. If you don't.
Yeah. I
the
would
cost
say,
savings isn't really there.
Have you guys heard about with the upcoming election, the GST being waived on all new builds?
Sure.
I've seen
Yeah.
it floated
this?
as like a...
Well, basically, like I think
A
conservative
carrot?
and liberal governments are both promising this
Mhm.
as part of their campaigns.
We
I
shall
think
see.
the Liberals are saying it's if you're a first time buyer,
Mhm.
they'll make a GST exemption.
Yeah.
If you're
Oh.
not a first time buyer, they won't, I think.
Okay, don't quote us.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and it's constantly evolving, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. Both tax policies around housing seem to be very close to each other
Mhm.
Yeah.
between the two platforms.
They still want their money, but...
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I do really like that they're potentially going to bring in this no GST,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that'll help a lot of builds come into or create more builds in BC.
Yeah.
And then lastly, again, this is this is another bonus. I didn't even know this existed until I purchased my house. But you get the first time home buyer's tax credit, and that's
Mhm.
federal. And basically, you get a $10,000 non-refundable tax credit, and that's equates to about $1,500 in tax savings. And basically, you just get to claim it and get a $1,500 check off from your taxes at the end of the year. So that's a
Woo.
nice little bit. Woo. So yeah, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're interested about learning more about any of these programs, reach out and we can help educate and even help point you in the right direction to take advantage of some of these programs. And there is a couple more, but I didn't talk on them because otherwise we'd be here forever. But these are I would say the main ones that people are going to be taking advantage of and should take advantage of. Yeah. Oh man, my throat hurts.
Well, okay,
Wow.
I'll finish. If I could, just a really quick 30 seconds, just about mindset. So, for first time buyers, if you have not purchased property, you're listening to a podcast about real estate, you're interested in it, one of the things to really keep in mind is with all these programs, yeah, these might move you in one direction or not, but you're still freaked out by the price of real estate. I have never talked to a single person in Victoria who has ever, at any point in their life, said that they bought a house and were happy with the price in the sense that it was a good deal in the time that they bought it. Always through the lens of history, people think that it was a good decision. But in the moment, when you're looking at, right now, average price is around 1.2, 1.3, everyone thinks that's crazy. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when the average price was $400,000, everyone thought that was crazy. So keep in mind, when you're looking at these incentives, these are the things that'll just be like cheat codes and little level ups.
to get you in.
But the big thing to figure out is, do I think that real estate is going to go up in the long run? Am I planning to need housing for the next 10 years or more? And then in that case, I think that's a more important thing is the mindset piece rather than the specific savings and programs.
Yeah, that's well said, Vince.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jocelyn. Now, Vince, you might have to leave soon.
Mm-hmm.
Should we do market update first?
Let's do that. Let's flip it around.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sorry, Jocelyn.
That's
you got
okay. I
bumped.
can talk last. Vince will probably correct me on everything to do with Vic West anyways. So
Yeah, perfect.
No one likes to know it all.
All right, Vince. What's going on? What's going on in the Victoria real estate market?
Well, the headline is it's a balanced market.
Yep.
It's softening. We thought, and we've said this several times, so we're recording this in second week of April. We thought that the spring market was out roaring like a lion, and it kind of fizzled.
Mhm.
So the spring market has not lived up to our expectations. What we're seeing is inventory is up across North America. So we're seeing that there's a lot more to choose from. And I think that Victoria, generally speaking, well, I know that Victoria is holding up a lot better than the rest of BC
Mhm.
because we always do. We're the last market to contract and we're the first market to bounce back.
Mhm.
When you look at the HPI trends
Mhm.
for Victoria, we don't see crashes the way that a lot of other cities do. So we do have, I'll just pull up a couple really quick stats. Year over year, we sold 14% more condos this past March than we
Okay.
did in March of 20.
And I will say anecdotally,
Mhm.
because I think Jocelyn, you have a listing
Mhm.
that's a 1-bedroom.
Mhm.
I have a listing that's a 1-bedroom, and I've been helping buyers
Mhm.
as well purchase condos recently. And I pulled up sales in a certain submarket in Victoria, and I looked up sales for 2-bedroom condos, and there was double or triple the amount of sales in 2-bedroom units versus 1-bedroom.
Mhm.
Just anecdotally,
makes sense.
looking
Mhm.
in a submarket.
Yep.
So I'm seeing like 2-bedroom units actually starting to heat back up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Probably
they're
in the
great
last.
value right now when you look
Yeah.
at the
They are.
price compared to the 1-bedrooms.
Yeah,
Yeah, and most people want the 2-bedroom even if they don't necessarily need it.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
they see it as more
As a bonus.
Yeah.
Same with a second bathroom in a
Mhm.
lot of condos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So long story short, inventory is on the rise. It's been on the rise. It continues to rise. We're up 14 or 15% more than what we had last year. So same time last year. So sales are up for condos about 14%, not prices, volume of sales. It's a
Yeah.
really important thing to clarify.
Mm.
Prices at a glance. Home sales for single family in the core area are up 3.6%
Mhm.
from last year, same time.
Okay.
But condos are kind of holding steady. They're at 0.4%, which is sort of a rounding error. So,
Yeah.
long story short,
And that was year over year.
year over year.
Okay.
Yeah, all these are year over year. Long story short, if you're selling, you need to expect to price competitively and you need to expect that it's going to take more than a month to sell your home. As long as that works, it's going to you need market exposure and you need the right price and it will sell. So
Yep.
it's not that sales aren't happening, they're just a little bit slower.
Yep.
And if you're a buyer, it means that you can find people that are really motivated and get a good deal.
Mhm.
Or at the very least, you have more selection. So you're not pressured. You can kind of just breathe and go through it slowly rather than racing around trying to get an offer accepted.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, Vince, do we have the stats of February versus March? Like what the difference is in?
Oh yeah, between the two. So,
So month over month.
month over month,
Yeah.
we're up 15% in terms of inventory.
Okay.
So from February 2025 to March 2025, our inventory shot up. Now, seasonal,
Yeah.
totally
That's
normal.
Spring
Mhm.
market.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's listing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're sitting at around 3,000 active listings on the market
Okay.
as of the end of March.
Mhm.
So
And then what about prices and I guess sales versus February?
yeah, so sales we did see I actually don't have the stats. I mean, we're up 16% of up from February of 2025.
Yeah.
We had 16.1% more sales
Okay.
in March.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Okay.
again, sales are up, inventory's up, but you can see it's kind of going up at about the same amount.
Yeah.
We're getting
Mhm.
16% more sales and 15% more inventory, give or
Mhm.
take.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of moving in lockstep. So the same market conditions that existed last year, I would say, exist this year,
Yeah.
except interest rates have come down.
Mhm.
We have more
Quite a bit.
inventory.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, tariff chaos aside, I really think that prices are going to start to jump up, barring any, black swan events.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We were talking about this, I think, before the podcast, but what we're seeing right now is I feel like buyer sentiment people are just scared. And we
Mhm.
talked about at the beginning of the podcast with David.
Mhm.
People are just like, worrisome. They're
Mhm.
a lot of fear mongering happening.
Absolutely.
And so what I'm guessing is going to happen is that like people are going to be scared. Inventory will slowly climb.
Mhm.
Everything's going to be flat, and then at some point, you know, when the fear subsides and interest rates have dropped another 0.5%,
Mhm.
I'm like scared of another COVID
Yeah.
type
Well, 'cause
situation.
that's exactly what we saw over COVID. There was this period of time where it was really quiet.
Yep.
All the
Mhm.
realtors were booking vacations.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, the market didn't drop like people thought it was going to, and people had confidence again, and boom, we were off
Bang.
to the
Yeah.
races.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it might happen again.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
I'll wrap
yeah.
up my segment
Yeah.
just really quickly here. There's that, there's a saying for everything, and I've said this before on the show, but when other people are greedy, be fearful,
Mhm.
and when everyone else in the market is fearful, i.e., today, be greedy.
Yeah.
And who that was Bugs Bunny, right?
That was Bugs Bunny. Yeah, exactly.
Smart guy. Yeah, very smart guy.
All right, that's it for me. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. Are you heading out, Vince?
I'm out of here.
All
Bye,
right.
Vince.
See you, buddy.
See you, man.
He's going to
Um,
come back in when he hears me talking about Vic West.
Yeah. Wait. No,
yeah,
Vic West.
hold on.
Here's the thing
Yeah.
about Vic West. No, I'm just kidding. I'm out of here.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Mhm.
Vince, for that market update, and we're gonna head into Jocelyn,
Mhm.
chatting about Vic West.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of my more favorite
I love
fun
Vic West.
locations
Yeah.
in Victoria.
For anyone who's listening who's not like local to Victoria, it'd be Victoria West is the
Yes,
actual. But you
yes.
know, us
We're
locals,
Hip,
Cool.
cool
yeah.
with our slang.
we say Vic West. 'Cause we're super cool, and it's the neighborhood. It's west of downtown. It's right across the Johnson Street Bridge. It's
Yeah.
kind of sandwiched in between Esquimalt and Victoria.
Esquimalt.
It's not as
No,
What
it's
is
Esquimalt.
it?
Vince is screaming at us.
What is it?
It's Victoria.
Victoria. Okay, sorry. The municipality of Esquimalt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is not. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
Yeah.
it's. I thought you were saying Esquimalt is not called Esquimalt. Yeah. So Vic West is not Esquimalt.
Mhm.
Vince would like me to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vince. And some fun fact: originally it was home to the Songhees people, and they actually relocated to Esquimalt following some negotiations to permit industrial development.
Okay.
So it's why Vic West was mostly industrial until the arrival of a streetcar service in 1980.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wait, there was a streetcar service in.
Yeah, like connecting Victoria to Vic West as well. So,
Oh,
and then when
interesting.
that happened, developers
Where did
started
that go? I want a streetcar
the
service. right
streetcar.
now.
I know it'd be so fun.
The
I wish it
bus.
was still,
The
yeah.
bus, I guess.
Yeah, it turned
Yeah,
into
the
a
bus.
bus. Yeah,
Boring.
which is I don't know if you've been watching the news lately. Don't get on a bus.
Oh, no. What happened? What happened on a bus, Jocelyn?
There was a police incident. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you can look it up. Look up Victoria Buzz. I'm not gonna get into that. That's
Yeah,
a whole
yeah.
other.
Yeah,
But
we'll
anyway,
skip that for
streetcars were pretty awesome. And yeah, it kind of opened up Vic West to developers. They saw the potential there and started to build a lot of like those waterfront condos that we see.
Yeah, and that's kind of I think the charm of Vic West for me is, you know, you're close to downtown, so it's still quite fun. There's lots of restaurants. Your accessibility to go downtown is really good.
Mhm.
But you're not downtown, which is
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
you get the bonus of downtown without the negatives of
Like,
downtown.
yeah, like
as
all
much.
the cons.
Yeah,
and you
and-
can kind of get out of it, like get out of the noise, get out
Yeah.
of the chaos.
And the great part about it is, like you said, you have to cross the bridge. So
Mhm.
everything in Vic West is waterfront.
Yep.
You're just like a
Mhm.
little
yeah.
portion of Victoria that's
And
just
it is
beautiful.
like it still really has that industrial feel. There's still a lot of areas that are quite industrial, but the one thing I love about Vic West is they really leaned into that with a lot of the developments.
Yeah.
And so you've got a lot of that like character industrial conversion stuff
Yeah.
that we see, like the rail yards, for example, is a great development where they really leaned into that look. So they're not trying to be something they're not.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're kind of like, yeah, we're Vic West. We're
Yeah.
like, we're a little
rough around the
rough
edges,
around the
a little
edges, but
hipster.
yeah, really
Yeah.
trendy. Like it's hugely popular with young families and with young people as well because of the proximity to downtown.
Yep.
And there are
Great parks.
great parks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's that? Is it Banfield Park?
Banfield, yeah.
Have you been there since they've upgraded the dock?
No, did they upgrade the
Oh,
dock?
it's amazing. In the
Ooh.
summer, if you go down to Banfield Park, they used to have that crappy little dinky dock.
Yeah, it was
And
awful.
they basically extended it like 100 feet
Wow.
and put two like big. And if you
Ooh.
go there in the summer now, there's 100 people on that dock.
Wow.
Everyone's swimming. Everyone's like having some drinks. Not supposed to do that.
Not an endorsement.
but yeah, it's like a very, very fun happening spot.
Trendy
to
area?
Go in the summer, and everyone's hanging out in
Oh.
the parks, sun tanning. Honestly, if you haven't been to Banfield Park on a hot summer day, go.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
good to know. Yeah, the Banfield, Vic West, also very popular park. Rainbow Park, just to name a few of them.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that is I guess kind of unique to Vic West is the EN Trail Galloping Goose
Yeah.
connection, which was like one of the most successful gentrification projects that we had in Victoria, which was to turn these like decommissioned rails into this really cool thing that connects Vic West to the rest
Yeah,
of
the biking trail. and,
yeah, so like right on there you can just pop out and you can be anywhere in Victoria
Now-
really
now-
if you're on a bike.
Jocelyn, where is the line of Vic West? Like, where does it end? When does it become Esquimalt?
So it's Hereward on the west that turns into Dominion there.
Yep.
So once you go past that, that is technically Esquimalt.
Okay. So it's pretty
Um,
small.
It is really small, yeah.
Very small.
And if you're driving in that area, it does feel different than Esquimalt a little bit. Like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you come out of it. And there are more, I would say, more of those like really small lots, character homes,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Yeah, there's a different feel between the two municipalities, even though they're so close to each other.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it goes all the way up to the north. It goes to the water. So
Okay.
mhm.
Awesome. I have a couple favorite restaurants that I
Ooh,
want to
yeah,
highlight. There's one that's like right on the border. I'm gonna say it because maybe I'll just include it, not in this Esquimalt section, but Me Mexico.
Yes.
Oh my god.
yeah, Vic
If
West.
you like street Mexican food, that is like the most authentic,
so good.
banging Mexican street food. There's like 5 chairs in there,
Mhm.
and it's also a corner store. But wow, best tacos ever.
They always are when it's like a grocery store mixed with like some
Yeah.
sort of
Oh.
fusion restaurant.
Yeah.
They always
and
end
I,
up being
and
so
I, ended,
good.
I think I found it like not even that long ago, maybe like 8 months ago. Was when I went for the first time, and I'm happy I did.
Yeah.
Very authentic.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
definitely.
Worth
and
a
then
visit.
obviously, I think didn't you give a fact about how this is like the oldest bar,
Spinnaker's, yeah.
in all of Victoria?
The oldest brew
Mhm.
pub.
Yeah, and it's fun. They have the upstairs,
Mhm.
they have a pool table. You're on the waterfront. Very,
Yeah.
very beautiful. You go for a nice walk on, I guess through Rainbow Park and
Mhm.
on the waterway there.
Yeah, it's like an institution.
Yeah, and then Boom and Batten,
Mhm.
obviously.
Oh,
Great
that's
place.
actually technically so.
Boom
Just
Batten.
for this podcast,
Yeah.
I'm breaking up Vic West and Songhees. So Songhees will be
Oh, okay. I'm
next
sorry.
week.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
Oh.
technically the neighborhood is both,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we're for the purposes of real estate, we're going to talk about them separately.
Okay.
So save that thought because Boom and Batten will be next week
All right.
because there's not that many restaurants in Songhees, so we will talk about it. But it is
Okay.
delicious.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite's the Spiral Cafe. I love.
Where's that?
It's like right on. Oh, what's that main street? I can't think of what the
Is
street
it
is called.
Skinner? Is that into Esquimalt already? Or?
No,
Oh,
it's
you're talking
like-
about the place like beside the bakery.
Exactly. Yeah, Spiral Cafe.
That bakery too.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
I think
Really
on
good.
Sundays they do pizza.
Fries.
Yes, Fries.
Fries
Thank you. I was
Bakery.
trying to remember
Yeah.
the name of it today. So
Yeah.
Fries
Yeah.
Bakery, right next to them, Spiral Cafe. Both
Yeah.
of those excellent.
So
Yep.
still in Vic West.
Still in Vic
Okay.
West. Yeah, still technically Vic West.
Right.
You have like another maybe 3 blocks until that's right on the border before
Mhm.
it turns into Esquimalt.
Yeah.
I'm also a huge fan of Sailor Jack's Consignment, which is in that same.
Yeah.
I just
Oh.
like that little.
Such a
thing
cool
there.
It
little,
is.
just so many
Well,
cool
you're right
things
across.
in the
You're right
store.
across
Yeah.
from Banfield Park
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
Like, and definitely.
And there's a good
feels
little kids
there.
park like in behind there as well. So if you're looking for something to do on a Sunday morning and you're like near there, you can just get like a baked good, go play at the park.
Cool.
Check out there's an antique store or something there. I always see furniture.
Right.
Actually, really cool fun fact is that in that park, Banfield Park, there's
Yeah.
like a fruit and vegetable garden that people can access. And there's
Oh.
these trees. I forgot the name of this berry now, and I'm gonna try to. But this berry grows on this long tree, and can be super super sweet, and it's a dark berry. I completely forgot its name now. But you can go there, and these berries don't grow on a bush like a regular berry
yeah.
does. It grows on a big tree. And I'm gonna Google it.
And you just go and
And just
yeah,
pick
you
one?
can just go and so I think these berries start blooming in late July,
yeah.
and they go until. But like your hands get so like
Red.
purple,
Stay.
purple.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot what they're called now. But anyways,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my favorite place I think is the sushi place, just in the main.
Oh,
the main
in the market there.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, what is that place
The
called?
Victoria Sushi.
Victoria
Yeah,
Sushi.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little market's nice too. Big wheel burgers in there.
Yeah.
I actually got a pedicure once
Oh.
in there, and it was probably my favorite pedicure I've ever gotten.
Oh, how many have
Yeah.
you gotten?
Like 5. Which, hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good actually. I love a good pedicure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Vic West has a lot going for it.
Yeah.
There's so many amenities. There's so many restaurants for how small of a neighborhood it is. If I was like 25 and moving to Victoria for the first time,
That's where you go.
I would go there. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like you have.
I'm with
the-
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, has a big allure, and they're going to be doing lots of developments. They're doing
Mhm.
the what's that big one that they're trying to push
Dockyards
through?
or
Dockyards.
yeah.
Or no,
No.
the one that's like right beside the rail, like where the old rail station
Oh
is.
yeah.
Anyway, they're planning on putting up like an Olympic Village style
Mhm.
like skyscrapers with like restaurants and everything in there.
A
Wow.
lot of the developments going in there, they're really trying to focus on, I mean, without saying it, but the 15-minute city idea where
Yeah.
it's like, there's the pedestrian walkways that connect everything. You have all the amenities. It is really walkable. Like you could park your car and do everything in a day. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's great for that. And it's still
Nice.
really affordable as well, which is nice. Like single family Vic
Yeah,
West.
that's true.
Yeah, like we're
I-
seeing higher, but like 1.1, 1.2.
And I would
for,
say
like,
a lot
decent.
of that is probably because they're older homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the time, yeah, like 1912-ish.
Yeah. Check
So-
that electrical.
Yeah, check the electrical. But yeah, we are seeing a lot of like newer ones that have been redone from top to bottom. And they're quite nice. And
Yeah.
a lot of the townhomes are a little more expensive now. They're definitely getting up there, even in the time, I would say in the last 3 years, they're moving up in price, but still like under $1 million for a nice new townhouse.
Yeah.
So
And then I would say also on the luxury side of things, they have some of the nicest luxury condos.
beautiful. Yeah, waterfront.
They have the falls.
The
Is that what
falls,
it's
yeah,
called?
the falls is beautiful. I
Yeah.
think that's in Songhees though.
Oh shit. But yeah, anyway, the Songhees Road, is it?
Mhm.
They have those buildings up there. Those are amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot and good value for like
Yeah,
waterfront
for what it is. Yeah, definitely.
So I think maybe like 5-6 years ago it was a bit more of a secret. Now I think people are kind of catching on to it.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's more of the place to be, but still, yeah, really good deals to be had. And yeah, it's a great place to be a young family as well, from what I've heard. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Does that wrap it up? Is that it?
I
Any
think so.
final thoughts?
I think so. The berry is called a mulberry.
Mulberry.
A mulberry,
I've
and
heard
it's
a
like
song
nothing. And
about
it's
that.
like nothing you've ever tried before. I'm telling you, it
I
tastes
didn't-
really different.
I actually
Yeah.
didn't know that mulberries were real berries anymore. 'Cause
Yeah.
I feel like it's a nursery rhyme.
No,
Okay. All right.
there we go.
Heard it here
Amazing.
first, folks. Mulberries.
Yeah, mulberries.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening to the Victoria Real Estate Podcast produced by the City Nest team. We have had some fantastic reviews and we love them. So please leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you are listening. We also really appreciate you guys sharing the podcast with friends and family. Otherwise, Jocelyn, how do people get in touch?
You can call me at 604-907-2074.
And David?
Call me also 250-858-7160.
Awesome. And you can reach out to Vince.
At
But
email.
That was me. That was
Right
me
here.
putting on glasses. At Vincent@citynest.ca, and you can reach out to myself, Adrian, at 250-464-40122, or on Instagram at Adrian Real Estate Victoria. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.